Greetings, fellow Salt and Sassers, and welcome to another video on solo RPGs. Today I want to talk to you about Wanderhome, which is a TTRPG by J Dragon, which is defined as a pastoral fantasy tabletop role-playing game. It is actually built on a system called No Dice, No Master, which means that this game does not run on dice for any resolution. In fact, it uses a token system, not specifically these tokens, anything will do, like pebbles, paper clips, you pick it, it's been done. I mean, you could use a pile of dice, I suppose, but it might get confusing. And no masters, because this game does not actually require a game master, even in its multiplayer use. So again, this is not necessarily a solitaire game, it can be played as part of a group. And while it is possible that a member of this group could take on the role of a game master and take over all the NPCs and the world creation, this game actually encourages every player to contribute to the story and to non-player character as well as their own characters. So it's a little different from the usual on quite a few fronts, and not the least of which is its theme. This game is actually about anthropomorphic animal looking for a home. So in this game invites you to basically be yourself and journey. You proceed in the land of Heath, I'm assuming that's how it's pronounced, which is a beautiful and boundless land full of life and soul, full of animal folks. Actually, the bugs are basically used as livestock, and has a culture of hospitality, so you can expect to be welcome where you go, where the people are fundamentally good. And while there was recently a war, it is no longer. Therefore, this is not a violence game. Actually, I believe the author was once quoted as saying that violence is always the loudest friend at a party. So if a game has violence, it will overshadow, or combat, it tends to overshadow other aspects of the game. And in this game, it is simply not really featured. This is all about exploration of self, as well as exploration of the land that you're traveling through. So here, intro. Most books contain stories within them, and they often know where the story will go and what exactly will happen. But one must be careful with stories. They are violent and cruel things after all, full of heroes and villains and triumph and conquest. Stories are for king and dragon slayers and for the blood-soaked hungry blades. It is easy, I have found, to seek to imprison the world inside our stories, to glorify the lives of powerful men, to celebrate their victories and mourn their tragedies, to build a reality where everything ties up neatly with a bow and everything makes sense. There is a comfort in stories like these, disconnected from what it means to be alive. But I'm not here for a story, I'm here for a journey. And so this is what this book offers. A lot of emphasis is around character creation and, in a multiplayer form, relationship between characters, and a lot less on like objectives. Your objective is to find your home. That just prompts the exploration of the land, but everything else is just sort of being in the moment and enjoying the journey. If I had a word to describe this book as a whole, it would be welcoming. Everything from the tone of the book, the large font, the wide margin, the pretty art, the simple mechanic, this book is quite simply welcoming. But let's talk about gameplay. So the first thing one would do, especially when playing solo, is to choose a character. This game builds on the context of playbooks, which is basically pre-made character archetype that then the player can further customized. So there's quite a few available: caretaker, dancer, exile, firelight, fool, guardian, mutt tender, peddler. So all of these come with a bit of their own vibe to them. So here, let's start with the firelight, for example, which is page 60. And I'll show you what I mean by like the in-depth creation of the character. So the firelight. It is easy to get lost in the darkness and the deep. The firefly at your side will always guide the way. You are alive. Your care is forward-thinking, mutual, and shining bright. First thing, choose a name and some pronoun. Then choose an animal. So again, this is all anthropomorphic, so what kind of animal? And these are some options always presented in the book. You are not bound by these options. It's just something to help you get started because, again, Blank page is the worst. And then you have to answer a series of questions. So in this case, they say choose 2 items you try to be and 2 you know you cannot be. So endlessly patient, consistently correct, here for everyone, always positive, enough, properly feminine, properly masculine, as the case may be. So this is very interesting because it gets you to choose, again, 2 things that you aim for and 2 things that you basically know is not for you. And just with these simple decisions, it really lets you get a sense of your character. But it doesn't usually stop there. So 3 to 4 to describe your looks. Again, there's some options here. And this particular character does have a firefly. So then they want you to choose some characteristics of how you met. 1 to 2. So the 2 of you grew up together, or your uncle gave them to you as a service bug, but you could always have a light to guide you. They are one of the lightning dancers and they fell from the sky into your hand. So again, that lets you create your character, a little bit of your own backstory. And then another question about 1 light that you keep lit and 1 that died out a long time ago, and tell the table around them. 1 could be a rusted iron lantern that your mother carried before you. A simple wooden incense holder shaped like a crashing wave that anchors you to your faith. Simple. And then there's some question here to the right and left, which again is a big focus on the relationship between the players. When it's multiplayer, in our case, it's a bit less relevant for solo play. And then it gives you an ideas of things you can always do. Shrug, pet your firefly, illuminate all that's hard to see, keep walking, say watch your step, and ask do you need a hand. So this is not all that you can do, obviously, in a game. This is just sort of like the things that come to you most naturally. And this section here speaks to basically your level up options. At the end of each seasonal holiday, you can choose 1 thing that you haven't chosen before. So that's more for like character growth, mechanically speaking. So each of the different playbook have 1 of these. So like I like to play with a vagabond, for example. The world's taking everything from you, beat down on your shoulder and giving you an aching heart. Some people think you're criminal or monsters, but you know what you are. You are alive. Your care is invisible, cautious, and unimaginably deep. Choose a name and some pronoun. Then again, choose an animal. Different question in this case. 2 you call yourself and 2 you insist you are not. And then things to describe your looks, and different crimes in this case that I've been falsely accused, and 2 that I'm actually guilty of. So every playbook will have slight variation in the questions they ask, which really add a lot of flavor. And again, despite the fact that there's a limited number of archetypes, there's a lot of room for customization or tweaking. So once you have your character built, it's time to venture in the feet. And the way this works for a solo player is that, well, actually, in all the cases, what would happen is that player will have to choose 3 different, what they call nature. Oops, so I mean artistic trait. 3 natures to build on, to define the scene you're in right now. So you have comfortable nature, verdant nature, liminal natures, sprawling nature, lonely nature. Anyway, so these are different things that can be taken figuratively or literally. So, for example, and this is where, while this is a no dice, no master, dice can come in. So you would roll, for example, 2 dice, 1 showing you the nature and 1 breaking it down further into a specific. So say 3 and 6, liminal nature, a tavern, page 161. So then we would look at 161, which would give us a description. A place of simple comfort, often settled into while a journey from one land to the next. So again, that's the idea of a tavern. So maybe you won't go to a literal tavern, but maybe it will be, I don't know, a crossroad with a nice bench on it. And in this place can always describe a small comfort, sow confusion amongst the disoriented, or offer comfort and amenities at a price. Then it gets you to some aesthetic elements and some folklore about the place. And very often the aesthetic elements also include, there you go, bar rat with a secret identity. So a bit of a lead on how to create a NPC in a place. So say that we roll a tavern and say for ease of maneuvering here, we also got a road, which is a place that exists for traveling through. So maybe we are at a tavern and a road, but the road might be more figuratively and the tavern more literally. So again, you could have aesthetics, you can have things to do, you have suggested people, there's folklore to think about. And everything about creating the location you're in is intended to, again, like situate you and give you a bit of purpose. Now, for what you do once you're actually somewhere, there are things you can always do and things that require you to spend a token for. And there is also an important note about the fact that you are not here to solve every problem of every place that you go to. The idea here is that maybe you can help the people you come across, maybe you can't. Maybe it's just about experiencing the world, sharing what you have. Oh, here. Nowhere is without problem. When you arrive at a place, you might not yet know what those problems are, but they're still there under the surface. Problems form naturally as nature and kith is the creatures of the land, so NPCs and players, slam against each other. However, you must remember, you are never going to solve a place's problem. You are a traveler from beyond. As welcome as you are, this is not your home, and the locals know far more than you do about how to resolve their struggles and worries. The best you can do is to ease pain, tackle short-term challenges, and give someone tools that may someday help out. Be ready and prepared to leave somewhere without resolving any of that place's problem. So as you're traveling through the world, you may not, in fact, be in a position to solve a problem that you've made up for yourself. But you can experience it and you can grow from it, characterly speaking. I mean, you can also do some projection and grow as a player. But the idea is mostly that your character just moves through the world in a very similar way that we do. You know, sometimes we can help, sometimes we can't, but either way, we're just learning. For the mechanic system, you will get a token whenever you inconvenience yourself to help someone else, give away something that you hold dear, pause for a moment and get some rest, leave an offering to a small or forgotten god, speak your true feeling on a subject, take a moment to bask in the grandeur of the world and describe it to the table. Take a moment to watch a tiny moment of beauty and describe it to the table. Take a moment to marvel at something no one else has seen before and ask the table to describe it. Once you have your token, you can spend it to provide a solution for an aspect of material or immediate problem, ease someone's pain, if only for a moment, keep someone safe from the difficulties of the world, offer someone the chance to connect with you on a personal level, find what someone needs to give them a chance to change fundamentally. Reveal something hidden about the person in front of you and ask them what it is. Know something important about the place you're in and tell the table about it. Listen to the shared wisdom of the many small and forgotten gods and ask the table what they tell you. In our case, we can ask ourselves, if we're so. So that's the idea, is basically more or less by taking a break, pausing, giving something of yourself, or basically recharging your batteries by having a moment of gratitude, you get a token, which then allows you to have a stronger influence on the world around you. It's a very, very simple system. Again, very, very mechanically light, and leaves a lot of room for creation. So again, this is definitely the sort of game that you would walk into knowing that, at least as a solo experience, it's very much a journaling game. It is very much a create the world as you go and find out what the story guides you. In addition to the guides on natures and location, there is also traits for NPCs. So again, when you're creating a character you come across, you can again roll dice and figure out what their traits are. And then they are more specifically described in each category, which is very cool actually, again, because when you have to create the whole world as you go, the 3 clues of the location, and again, usually when you have all 3, it's easier to know which one you want to take figuratively and which one you want to take literally. So for example, a tower might just be a very tall place. So a tower may in fact be a hot air balloon, or the tower might be a mountain. It's just the idea of height, the idea of a tower is what you're supposed to inspire yourself from. Or again, it could be a literal tower, right? But maybe it is coupled with a tavern, which means that no one stays at the tower. The tower is just a place people pass through. Why? I don't know. Maybe your 3rd clue will give you an idea. and then the NPC ideas guide you. And the things that natures can do is also a way to use and spend tokens. So again, gives you an idea of the kind of actions you can take there. So that's basically the idea of Wanderhomes and its mechanical sense, which does no justice whatsoever to the experience it represents. It is very interesting, contemplative game to do. One thing that I like to do when I buy a game and try to figure out what it's actually about, one of the easiest way to do that is to look at what the game rewards, right? Because that's what you're encouraged to do. And in this case, one reward is to get a token. And it's very clear, to get a token, take the time to breathe, take the time to reflect, take the time to help, to inconvenience yourself, or just to meditate, to be in the moment. So as you're playing, the game encourages you to do all these things for token. That's how you know what the game is about. And it's about that. And then spending them on things that really matters. When the stakes are good enough to be worth your time and energy, then you can spend your token to try to ease someone's pain or have something that's a higher impact. Here, little note on failure, actually. I think that's interesting too. You might notice that nothing in Wanderhome tells you to do concerns yourself with failure. This doesn't mean that you can't fail. Indeed, you can choose to fail whenever you'd like. Instead, Wanderhome is a game that isn't preoccupied with failure. Often in life, we don't fail. Sometimes we struggle to do something, get passed over, do something we wish we hadn't, or give up. But even those moments aren't truly failure in a pejorative sense. Mistakes, maybe. Suffering at the cruelty of others. Listening to our bodies and brain and accepting their natural limitations. But it doesn't mean you're a disaster, and it doesn't mean you failed. Your journey will just continue on another path. So in these kinds of games, I find myself failing a fair bit. Again, I'm supposed to inconvenience myself. I'm supposed to give away something I hold dear. The character creation builds in weaknesses and points of improvement, things I feel I can't be. But just because I created myself to say some things I cannot be, doesn't mean that through my journey in Wanderhome, I cannot grow to be able to become that. And that's, I guess, the magic, the vibe, the feel of this game. I guess I could cover also, the character advancement in a mechanical way is tied to the passage of time. So this game comes with, other than beautiful illustration, which I'll showcase here, a very cool calendar. It's run on 5 different seasons. Different seasons also offer signs of the month. There's some criteria you can have to have once in a while events. And when you have a seasonal holiday, then you can have a bit of character advancement from the playbook. So I guess that's it. I mean, there's not much I can say. Again, it's mechanically simple. It is, but it's expensive, if I can say it this way. Like when you're traveling through this land and when you're just being yourself, it really feels quite limitless. And again, I guess there's a bit of poetry about that. Again, in a way that the world is a reflection of the character, that's a reflection of the world, that the journey to find your home is a journey to find it physically and emotionally, self-discovery, and then finding your place in the world. Ooh, pretty calendar here. So I guess I've talked enough, and it should be enough to give you an idea of what this game is about. If you have any questions, as usual, don't hesitate to drop it in the comments, and thank you for watching.